Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Purpose and Profit. I am joined by Susan. Susan is based in Charleston, South Carolina, and spent 12 years as the director of operations for a local real estate brokerage, leading both closings and listing departments. She started her investing journey through Subto and top tier TC, but soon discovered her true passion was way beyond the paperwork. Now in her 60s, she and her husband are building a real estate business focused on wholesaling, fix and flips, and their ultimate goal is to buy and hold co-living properties. They've done deals across South Carolina, Georgia, Florida, Alabama, all the way from private money lending to owning rentals. And now they're looking to invest in mobile home parks and RV parks. Susan is here to remind us that purpose doesn't have an age limit. Thank you so much for joining us today, Susan.
Oh, happy to be here. Thanks
Yeah,
for asking me.
of course. You have done it all. You've been on both sides, realtor, investor. You've done a little bit of everything.
Yeah, I still have my real estate license. I kept it once I retired from the brokerage, just so I had access to the MLS. And fortunately, the MLS that I'm involved in has linked up with Georgia and North Carolina, so I have access to both of those states in the MLS. So looking for properties that have been on the market for, over 120 days makes it a little bit easier. And I have direct access to look at all the information, the tax information, the disclosures through the MLS.
What an asset. That's amazing. Well, and you also I don't want to say you speak realtor, but a lot of times when investors speak with realtors, they're not very sensitive to the struggle that realtors have gone, especially for a listing that's been on that long. And so with you having all of that experience is such an asset that you bring to a whole new space.
Well, it makes it easier to talk to a realtor because I do speak their language. And what was interesting when we first joined Subto is some of the terminology that Pace was using to me in the realtor world meant something totally different. So it was kind of learning how to navigate which term based on who I was talking to, what they were talking about. Because when you say underwriting in a realtor, that's the lender. They do all the underwriting, but as an investor, you're doing the underwriting. You're doing the research and making sure that the deal is a good deal. So it was kind of, when we were going over terms, it was like, I had to learn, especially with TC work, it was like I had to learn the different language. But it opens doors because I can say I'm a licensed investor. So I do have to follow the rules and regulations of the real estate board because otherwise my license would be in jeopardy. So I think it kind of lets people know that you're working with a little bit more ethical practices because that's what you have sworn to do. So
That's awesome.
yeah.
That's really exciting. Whatever got you started in real estate?
Well, it was kind of an interesting story when we got transferred to Charleston from St. Louis with my husband's job. And when we moved here, now it's been 15 years. I used to be a pastry chef. And so I knew I didn't want to work nights and weekends anymore. So since we were new to the city and I just thought, well, our daughter was, going to a new school. Our youngest daughter is still in high school. And I thought, I'll just take my time, see what comes around. And I was doing some volunteer work at the plantations around here and other places. And then I saw an ad for a young real estate team looking for an assistant. And I thought, okay, I'll apply. I wanted to do something different. And it was so strange. I went through 6 interviews.
Oh, wow.
I remember talking to my friends and they're like, what kind of job are you interviewing for? And I'm like, it's like a $10 an hour assistant job that I figured I'd just take until something better came along. And I'm like, it's been like 6 interviews and, but I did get the job and, I just kept getting raises and more and more responsibility. And, 6 months in, the agent I was working for came in and said, I signed you up for real estate classes. you start Monday. And the reason he did that is because he wanted me to be able to communicate with our clients about repairs and about price and be able to negotiate on his behalf. So you can't do that and put your pen to paper on the contract. You can't do that unless you have a license. So I got my real estate license, and so then it just became a requirement of anybody who worked in the brokerage that you had to have a real estate license. So whether you were in the marketing department or whatever, everybody had a license. And so I did, I sold a few here and there, houses, friends, and family. But that wasn't like listing and helping buyers wasn't like my passion at the time. I was more focused on, I was handling the closings. By the end of my career, I probably closed like 2,000 traditional real estate sales. So that when I joined when I was exposed to real estate investing during that time, I remember coming home to my husband and going, "Oh, John, we could buy a condo and rent it out, and it would be so great, and so easy." Little did I know. But I joined REN, Women's Real Estate Network, to begin with, and it was great at first. Then it just didn't really give me everything that I thought we needed to really get going in our business. It got us a start and exposed me to things I'd never been exposed to before. But, then, and that was just like a short-term membership. And then we joined Homeschooled with Tarek Alusa when that was in place. I think it's disbanded now. But what was great about that one was we were assigned our own personal coach, and we met with her every other week, and she walked us through our first flip.
Wow.
So that was really nice. But again, that was a mentorship that had an end date. So I had been exposed to Pace and Jamil through that mentorship on one of their training calls. And that's how I reached out to Pace's team, and they just kept in contact with us because we're like, look, we're trying to finish this flip. We're not joining anything else until this is done. And because we were doing it all of ourselves, never do that again. The person, Garrett was his name, and he just kept in contact with me, and he would give us little tips and, always check out to see how we were doing. So then June of 23, we joined Subto. And we knew we were going to retire within a year. So we were trying to get things going before we retired from our W-2 jobs. So we had planned for that for a long time, but it was just the right time. And so we did our fix and flip, exposed us to turnkey rentals also, and exposed us to creating a solo 401k. So before we retired, we moved some of our retirement funds into a solo 401k so we would have control over investments instead of depending on the stock market. So that's where we bought our rental properties through a company called Spartan Invests, and they do turnkey rentals. And so that was our first rental property. We have a little house outside of the University of Alabama.
Very cool.
So it's a good location. And then we've done some private money lending through that with a friend of my husband's who's been into not only real estate investing, but business investing for years and years. So he came to us with an opportunity that we invested with him, and we're getting a 20% return on that. So we've done all that through our solo 401k, but now it's my husband. So we sat down, when we joined Owners Club, which we were kind of hesitant because we just joined Subto. We're just getting really started. Should we do this? And I thought, we would be silly not to do it because it's going to take us, where we want to go. And so we joined Owners Club. And I'll be the first to say, the first retreat, and they talked about social media. It's not my thing. And I kicking and screamingly went into it. And now I made a commitment to my pod that I'm a chairman of, that I will post every single day. So,
Yes.
I kept hearing people say, don't be afraid, just post anything. It doesn't matter what it is. You're just letting people know who you are. And then I had met Rhea Campbell at a day with Pace. And she was like, Sue, I know who you are, but nobody else does. So you need to start posting. So we're doing that. I'm doing that now. And it's kind of been fun. It's like, just little things here and there, mix in some business tips and things that I've learned along the way, along with just kind of personal stuff. So, so we're just trying to keep going. We've had a little setback, as most, life happens. My husband had a herniated disc that just would not stop.
No.
Yeah, we had I had 4 surgeries since February 25th. The last one was May 23rd. So all of a sudden your life turns upside down, and I became a full-time caregiver. So I was able to keep up with Zooms and doing all the, doing the things that I could do to keep our business going. But, it had to take a back step. And that's the great thing about being an entrepreneur. You can take a step back and go, okay, I'm going to let systems run while I deal with what's more important right now, and then just turn around and come right back. So we've turned the corner.
Wow. Thank goodness.
Oh my goodness. It was, I don't wish that on anybody. It ended with a back fusion surgery. So they had to fuse the 2 discs together and remove the disc completely because it kept splintering apart. So, but he's back, and now the trick is to not to keep him from overdoing.
Right.
So, unfortunately, can't come with me to Owners Club retreat because he can't sit in a plane for 5 hours. But he's back at doing the wholesaling, and we live in South Carolina, so we can't wholesale in South Carolina. So we have a market in Michigan that we've researched and done all the data searches on that one. So he's back at that again, and we're just moving forward and ready to go again. So, but at first people looked at us like we were crazy because, oh, you're going to retire and now you're going to take on a job. And I'm like, it's not a job. It's something that that excites us and we're eager to learn about. And it's fun. And we figured, we'll have a good retirement, but gosh, why not have a great one instead, and get to travel and meet new people and experience new things that, I wouldn't get to do if I was, at home in Charleston.
Right. Well, and it's, what do you want your retirement to look like? And I think you guys are doing something together that you want to do. And like you said, meeting amazing people, like our retreats are so much fun. Getting together with like-minded people is like a game changer. But you were wildly resilient, Susan. You really are. Like you just and pivot and pivot and pivot. And that is really incredible.
Well, what else are you going to do is kind of the way I look at it. You don't really, you could stop and just stand still. We have 5 grandkids too. So this is also allows us to, we're very fortunate that all of our grandkids live in Charleston. Oh, wow. So we get to, like right now, 2 of them are downstairs with my husband. We're, so their moms could do whatever they needed to do. But we're very fortunate that they live here now, and we know that it might not always be like that. So we're just going to take advantage of it while we can. And if I was still working at the brokerage 9 to 5, or I worked 7 to 3:30, but I would get those opportunities to spend time not only with my grandkids, but also one-on-one time with my daughters. So, and in a more adult relationship. So, it's just been great. And gosh, and just saying, hey, I'm going to just pick up and go somewhere. I'm going to California for a week, or I'm going to Salt Lake City for something in July. And then, just places I would have never thought to go to Monterey, California. That wasn't like on my bucket list of places to go.
I agree. Me neither. And then I started researching it, and I was like, wow, this is like, I'm excited to go for a hike and like see the area. It is very cool.
I am too. My granddaughter is really into seals right now. So I said, oh, I'm going to this meetup at this park where all the seals hang out. So take lots of pictures for her. But, it's just kind of like experiencing new things, that this opportunity, had we not pursued this, opened doors for us. We invested in a mobile home park. We're limited partners in a mobile home park. And that came about because this wonderful lady named Teresa Averson, who's in Subto, walked up to us at Squad Up and said, hey, I don't know your story. Tell me your story. And we started talking, and she's like, oh, well, I have this opportunity for a mobile home park in Greenville, South Carolina. Do you guys want in? And we're like, send us the information. And so during the retreat last year, we were busy trying to sign paperwork and get funds sent to be a part of the mobile home park. So, that all happened really fast. And, those opportunities would not be around, had we not stepped out of our comfort zone and said yes. We just invested with Tracy Gunn in her candy empire. And now we're looking at the laundromats with Leah and Benjamin. So, and that came by a fluke. She called me thinking I was a capital raiser. She goes, you're on my list as a capital raiser. And I said, well, not yet, but I'm sure I will have to be soon. She was like, well, I'm going to, and I know Leah. So she's just like, well, I'm just going to tell you why I'm calling anyway. And so we had an hour-long conversation and sent us the pitch deck. And my husband's like, I think this is a really good idea. I'm going to ask her some questions, but I think we're going to go forward with this. And so, who would have thought, gosh, I'm going to invest in laundromats. So you never know what's around the corner. So you just kind of have to keep your mind open. I've started doing, I don't know if you're doing this too, but some mindset coaching. It just kind of opened I just finished reading Change Your Paradigm, Change Your Life with Bob Proctor. And we listened to Earl Nightingale's The Magic Word every morning. It's all about your attitude and how you present yourself, and that you belong in any room that you want to walk into. It's all about how you feel about yourself. And because I'll tell you, I don't know, you were TC2, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, I was always I never want to be the center of attention. I'm fine just, putting my head down and doing the work, and kind of more of an introverted person. And this has kind of taught me, this whole experience has taught me that it's okay to step outside of your comfort zone. It's okay to talk to people you don't know, and have conversations that are meaningful, and with people that you just don't know. They might be interested in the same thing you're interested in, or going through the same thing that you're going through, and have a great conversation. So I'm trying to make it my mission now to step out of my comfort zone and talk to people, go up and introduce myself and start talking to people instead of just sitting back and waiting for someone to come to me. So it's a little nerve-wracking for me, but I'm trying.
It is. And I feel that same way. I do a really good job in like one-on-one interactions or even a small group. But then like, you go to squat up or I feel like my social battery dies so quickly. But like now I have like this burning desire to genuinely meet as many people as possible. Like I've just taken business out of it. I've taken, all of it out of it. And I realized that like we talk to the coolest people that are doing look at you. You're doing such a wide variety of things that like, it's interesting. Like,
well, yeah. Well, that was my husband will talk to anybody about anything. So when we went to the first squad up, it was like we purposely moved around the room for every session because you never knew who you were going to sit next to. And everybody we talked to was doing something different. So fascinating to me because going into it, I had this very narrow view because everything I had been a part of was just fix and flip and wholesale or maybe burrs, but that was it. Nobody was talking about buying businesses or investing in mobile home parks or RV parks, or I met one lady who flips mobile homes, somebody who just does new construction. That's all she does. Somebody she doesn't do any, she's a doctor, so all she does is do investments. She's limited partners in all kinds of different investments that come across her table. So everybody was doing something different and in a different way. And so you would start talking and then the people behind you would want to jump into the conversation or the people next to you. And it was so exciting. So I kind of missed that a little bit at this squad up since we got to sit in the front. We were sitting next to other owners and it was, so then John and I decided a couple times we sat in the back around people we didn't know. Not that I know all the owners, but it was kind of like people who were new and just getting started and then listening to how either advanced they are already or, they're just starting out and they're so excited and this is what they're doing. And so it's no matter where you go, you're always going to meet somebody that is doing something unique and different that you never even thought of doing. So that's kind of opens up your world a little bit.
It does. I think that I walked into, let's see, we went to the first squad up was what, 2024? Yeah. Mm-hmm. So I walked into that one and I'll tell you the biggest change for me from 24 to 25 was 100% mindset. Mm-hmm. It was 100%, and maybe I just need to hear Pace say it 12 million times because I know he does, mm-hmm. but just like, you got to keep putting yourself out there. And I think initially I misunderstood that. And I think initially I thought it was just, almost you have to like sell yourself, but I don't think that's at all. Like,
I don't think it is either because you're just looking to connect.
Yes.
Yeah. And what was interesting at the first retreat we did, I can remember, sitting in a room talking to somebody and he was talking about something like he was looking for some funding or something. And then in the next session, I talked to somebody else who had money to invest. And I was like, okay, at the dinner that night, I'm like, okay, you two need to meet. I mean, I know I just met you and I just met you, but you two need to meet each other. So it was kind of neat. I mean, I'm just in awe of the things that people are doing, and talking to them and getting more involved in what's going on in the South Carolina. And, last year when all this stuff started with John in December, I was like, okay, I got signed up for the No One Left Behind Challenge. And I was just like, oh, and I'm the operator. Okay. The TC. And it was kind of like the blind leading the blind. Our group here in Charleston is like, we ended up merging the two groups together because I don't know how nobody knew they were on the team. And then we ended up keeping it running for 2 weeks instead of just 1 week because it took us so long to get started. And it was fun because then people I knew, but I didn't really know that well, and got to meet new people. And, so it was, I kept that up. I kept up with all the homework. I kept up, with everything going on. And, but I think that like having those things kind of saved me a little bit from, like, oh gosh, all this medical stuff is going on. And I had something else to think about and something else to look forward to. And the mindset, I had been listening to Jamil. I love listening to Jamil's YouTube mindsets. And I noticed that, John was starting to get a little depressed. And I'm like, okay. So I'd walk in every morning and I'd open up all the blinds, and because I knew he couldn't get out of bed, so he couldn't shut them. And then I would get him like out and to sit in the living room or go sit outside on the porch so he's out in the sunshine, because it's, it was hard on him. And I said, we're doing this mindset training. And so he would listen in to Matt and Tamar, and now he's, he's read the books, and he's doing we started doing gratitude in the morning. And so now I get up in the morning and I have a little mantra that I read to myself, that I'm open to opportunities and I receive them with gratitude and joy. And then the things I'm grateful for, and that I write down kind of like how I see ourselves in the next 5 to 10 years. What kind of house we're living in, where we're traveling, how our business looks, all of that stuff. And at first I kind of was doing it and I was like, oh, this is so corny, but I'll tell you a story. So one of the things Bob Proctor says is you do your 10 things that you're grateful for every morning. And then 3 people that either you're aggravated with or upset with for whatever reason, you're going to send them love. So I kind of felt like, I was a little aggravated with one of my daughters, and I was just sending, it's like, okay, I'm sending out love to you because I know you're going through a stressful situation right now, and blah, blah, blah. And it was so weird. The next day, she, like 2 or 3 days later, she came to me and she said, you know what? I just want to apologize to you for being such a rough teenager. And thank you for sticking by me. And I thought, well, wow. At first I didn't connect, I was doing these things, and, and I was like, wow, great. 20 years later. Thank you. And then I was telling my husband about it. He goes, well, Sue, you were sending love out to her every day. So I was like, yeah, that's kind of cool. So they say there's signs everywhere. You just have to open your eyes and look. So it's been kind of cool. I always kind of thought, oh, that's all mumbo jumbo, whatever. But it's been really fascinating going through this journey.
I think what's really cool is that because you're doing all of this, you're going to be able to like help your kids and your grandkids like leap year ahead, because, you waited until you're older to kind of like start figuring all of this out. And like, I joke, I have kids. My oldest is almost 20 and then my youngest is 7. And I tell everyone, like, those younger kids have such a better mom because I do all of these things and I'm learning. And when I see things, I'm just like, one of the things we say multiple times a day is I am so blessed that everything works out for me. Like, I've just taught my kids, like, it's naturally just something we say multiple times a day. And like, it's crazy because things just do. Like, you put that positive energy in the world. I love the idea of sending love to 3 people that are, kind of in an awkward opportunity area for you. And so I fully believe that is probably life-changing, but what a gift for you to give your family.
Well, it's been great. And so like my oldest granddaughter's 12 and she struggles with math. Like, who doesn't at some point?
Exactly.
So I just said, she was 7, she was all worried. She 7th grade math is going to be so hard. And I'm like, Stella, you just need to keep telling yourself, I'm going to kick 7th grade math. It's going to be so easy for me. And walk into that classroom, owning that classroom in the fall and just say, I got this. And 7th grade is going to be a breeze. I don't know why she's worried about 7th grade, but everybody told her it's so hard. So, but it's great because, it's kind of like I can look back, my kids, my daughters are 34 through 30 right now. And so I can look back and say when their parents, and I try not to give parenting advice, but just say, maybe do it this way instead, maybe, because I think 2 of them are kind of ADD. And I'm like, okay, so when they're not listening to you, walk up and touch their shoulder and then say, eyes on me. And they'll stop what they're doing and turn and look at you instead of you screaming their name across the room. It's like things I had to learn. But it's just like little things I'm learning. And just when my daughter and her kids eat dinner here with us, every night we go around and we say, give me a rose and give me a thorn. What was great today and what was something that maybe wasn't so great, but you're okay with it, And so I don't know where she got that from, but when I was at Rhea Campbell's boot camp, somebody else was talking about that, how they do that with their kids. And I'm like, well, where did that come from? Because my daughter does that too. So now whenever we eat dinner with them, we have to come up with a rose and a thorn. So it's kind of cool, getting them thinking, this is what was really good today, So.
And that thorns happen. Like everyone has them happen. And it's just an open conversation, but good things still happen. That's so beautiful. That's very cool.
Yeah, I thought, well, this is really cool. And so my other daughter has adopted it with her sons. And it's so interesting to hear what a 3-year-old's rose and thorn is.
I bet. So,
compared to, because, and then, as we age, but this has been probably the best journey. I was, when I first left the brokerage, right when I turned 60 and then retired 3 days later. And I was a little nervous. Like, oh gosh, did we do the right thing? Did we do the right thing? And my husband was still committed until January 2nd of the year. And it was just kind of like, this was the right decision. I mean, the longer it went in, like 6 months afterwards, I'm like, this was so the right decision, because the job was getting so stressful and I wasn't happy. And I was getting a little bored of doing the same thing every day and day in and day out. And this has just been the greatest thing, because I never know what the day is going to hold.
Yes. And like you said, like sometimes you can push the gas hard and, an 18-hour day. And then the next day, if you need to prioritize family, that's what you do.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's been, and it, I just think like if you're thinking about, I don't know whether to leave my W-2 or not, of course, make sure you're financially ready to do that. But I haven't looked back. I've never thought, oh gosh, I need to go back to work. Now I do the day after I retired, somebody who I worked with at the brokerage for 10 years, and he broke off and started his own brokerage, called me up and said, what are you doing? And I was like, well, I'm on the beach, because I said, I'm just going to go to the beach the day after I retire. So I'm sitting, I can do that now. I can go to the beach during the day. And he's like, I broke off from and I'm starting another brokerage. Will you come and help me get organized? And I was like, well, I don't want to work full time. I don't even want to work part-time for somebody. So I started helping him. I work 5 to 7 hours a week for the brokerage. I take care of paying their bills. I pay the virtual staff. I tell him when he can and can't spend money. I helped get his systems organized. And because we had such we've known each other for 15 years. It's we can have a very easy conversation about how things are running. So John keeps asking me when I'm going to not work anymore for him anymore, but I'm like, it's so easy. It's it's one meeting a week for an hour and a half. And then I check the email. I go through all the emails. I record all the contracts that we have under contract, and I estimate what our income is that's going to be coming in. And I make sure that the bills are paid. So it's really easy. So why not keep doing it? And it keeps my fingers in things. And then it's kind of unique because now he's got all these young agents and they're interested in real estate investing. So it's kind of nice to have a conversation with these agents that are just like a year or whatever in, and they're already thinking about what else can I do? How else can I expand this knowledge? So it's been a lot of fun.
Always paying it forward. No, you are awesome.
I mean, you have to. I mean, I don't know about you, but when Paige started talking about hosting your own boot camp, I was like, what do I have to say that anybody would pay here? But I'm not there yet. I'm sure I'll get there, but it's you pay it forward when you can. I mean,
maybe you could do one for like realtors and how to have a successful business on that side, since we have so much back end knowledge on that.
Yeah, it's that's come in quite handy. Even on like Zoom calls, like I was on a call, Jerry Norton. I really like the way he runs things and his systems. And so like when there's licensing questions and things like that, I can speak to that because I know, that I have to follow in this state. Every state has different rules, but in general, they're all the same. And I have to renew my license every 2 years. I have to take continuing education every 2 years and to keep my license. So, because I don't ever want to have to take that test again. But it's kind of like, it's like a checks and balance. So it can help you keep other like investors in line too. Like don't do that. But sometimes I think real estate investors, unfortunately, might get a bad rap because there are bad eggs in everything. And the real estate industry talks about that quite a lot, how real estate agents are not on the top of most trusted professions. And so, the question is always, what are you going to do to prove people wrong? How are you going to conduct yourself? So it's always unfortunate. There's a few people out there that are not as scrupulous as others, but you just have to rise above and prove to people that, you're out for their best interests and their interests above everything else. So
100%.
Yeah. I mean, why do anything other than that is my thought. Nobody gets ahead that way. And even when I was a pastry chef, it was like, what is going to be the best thing for this customer? Like when people would come in to try to order stuff, custom things, and just talking to them about, you really don't need this or want this. It's too much money for what you want. This is more along the lines of what you need. So it's always kind of been like that. I've always tried to help put whoever I'm working with first and see what they need before myself. So
yes, that's like my ongoing business model. Do good business.
Yeah.
That's all you gotta do. Just do good. And no matter what you're doing, if you're always trying to do good business, everyone will be okay at the end.
Well, and it all comes back to you. I mean, karma is a thing. And why not have a great reputation? Why not? I mean, it's only going to benefit you in the long run. So what's nice about having the license is like I have long-term relationships with attorneys and lenders and inspectors and stagers and and photographers, everybody that goes into the whole process. So if you have a good reputation, people are going to want to work with you.
100%. No, I agree. Well, thank you so much for your time today, Susan.
welcome.
I really appreciate it. How would you like anyone to reach out to work with you?
They can reach me on Instagram, or you can email me at susansreinvesting@gmail.com.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much. I hope you have a great rest of your day.
You too.